Welcome to The Better Life with Dr. Mary Ann Pinkston. Join Dr. Pinkston today as she teaches you how an integrative approach to health, combining holistic and contemporary medical information, can lead you to the better life. And now, here's your host, Dr. Mary Ann Pinkston.
Hello there, and welcome to Better Life TV. I am Dr. Mary Ann Pinkston, and we're going to start another great show, kind of pulling off the last show that I did and discuss a little bit more about cortisol issues in people who are trying to spare their energy and bring up their ability to get out of bed and get going. But this time I'm going to turn cortisol away from, energy, and then we talked about sleep a little bit. Now I'm going to talk a little bit about how it affects you in the weight loss department. That's a big topic because if you've noticed, especially here in San Antonio, that obesity is becoming a tremendous problem. And approximately, 50% of Americans are now climbing into the obese range, which is affecting our health long term. And for once, our children are now expected to have a lower life expectancy than our generation, and I'm almost 52, so our generation may outlive by age our children, and that is very frightening and very sad, especially in the United States, where we are a technological giant. We are supposed to be ahead of the curve. We're supposed to be fed well. We have all the technology in the world and knowledge in order to make ourselves a healthier society. Yet we are not a healthy society in the least. And our weight is continuing to skyrocket. And there are many reasons behind that, of which I'll go into on further shows. Right now, I'll have to corner us into the cortisol area, or stress hormone. So for those of you who may not have caught the last show, cortisol is stress hormone that is produced by the adrenal gland. So the adrenal gland sits on top of your kidney and under stress. And it can be good stress, it can be bad stress, but under stress, it will produce stress hormone. Now, cortisol plays a good role in our body too. It's something we actually need. So about 3-4 o'clock in the morning, we'll get a peak of cortisol that elevates our heart rate and blood pressure, pulls us out of our sleep cycle so that we can get up and get going in the morning. And then during the day, it begins to fall a little bit as we're awake. And then a little bump around 2 o'clock. That's why you get that little afternoon kind of snooze feeling. And then lowers into the evening where we can fall into a deep sleep. So cortisol, though, if it needs to be in a range. It can't be too high and it can't be too low. And then it changes throughout the day. So doctors will check cortisol levels sometimes. I find a lot of physicians really don't check cortisol levels, and I do. And the reason that I do is because this, in my mind, is the primary problem behind sleep issues, energy issues, weight issues, and so many other things, inflammation in our body. And so what happens when cortisol creates that inflammation is that, especially when it's off, so your cortisol curve will change and it'll heighten, or it can go too low also, which I went into on my last show. But as that cortisol changes and inflammation increases in our body begins to change in the way that it handles blood sugar, in the way that it handles all things weight related, our nutrients and how we absorb nutrients to how we use them, how our mitochondria work. And each little cell, we have an organ called a mitochondria that produces energy. And we can go further and further and further into the biochemistry. But what it does when it creates all this inflammation is it will begin to change the way you deposit fat in your body and the way that your body wants to gain or lose weight. So if you have gotten to the point where you've tried everything, you've gained up in your weight, you've developed that little front belly, and the fat is not really depositing so much in the arms or legs or hips for women, but in that front belly, and you are unable to get rid of it. Everything that you try, you may diet, you may exercise, you may do both, which you should be, but you're not able to lose that weight. Cortisol tends to be one of the number one reasons behind that. It's not the only reason, but that's what I want to focus on today. So if you've gained that belly fat and you're trying to lose it and can't, that is something that I will check and try to work on with patients so that you can, begin to lower those stress levels and manage it. There are ways of doing that. So I try to work on things from a meditation aspect and decrease stress. There's no way we can decrease stress in our life. To a certain extent. But there are ways that we can manage it a little bit better. And it is not something that contemporary medicine has focused on because of the fact that, the pharmaceutical industry, I don't think, has found an answer to it. And more integrative style medicine tends to focus on cortisol more than contemporary. I just don't think they get it yet. So at this point, that is something I have really worked hard on. And I use more of a supplement meaning herbs and vitamins and minerals in order to change that and get that belly fat to lower. So when I talk with patients about cortisol, I talk about lowering the stress and getting their sleep corrected. Again, I spent time on that in the last show. Please go back and watch. And with correcting your sleep, you correct your ability to lower inflammation. You correct your ability to restore and repair your tissues and repair your hormone cycles. So if you can refocus your body away from inflammation, get appropriate sleep, lower stress in your life, your body will respond a lot more to what you're trying to do in order to lose weight. There's more to the story, though, and that will be on your diet entirely. Of course, right? I think most of us in the United States really, and especially in Texas, I know in South Texas and San Antonio, we've got a lot of great food, a lot of great Mexican food around here. And we tend to, move to San Antonio and the girth starts to grow. And that's one of the things that we measure when you come to clinic is your waist and your circumference around your waist. That's how you know how much your inflammatory issues are creating problems for you and how much inflammation you might have in your body without even doing a lab. But as our girth begins to grow, what I try to focus patients on is looking at their diet. A carbohydrate-rich diet is what grows that belly and creates a lot more inflammation. In the United States, we have a heavy dependence on sugar. And not just sugar, but anything carbohydrate related. So pasta, bread, and our sweets, our soft drinks, and things that we add to our drinks. It seems we can't go a step at all during our day without adding something to a drink or snacking on something, crunchy and salty, and it's very carbohydrate based. Most patients I talk to when they try to lose weight will focus on maybe the keto diet. Okay, nothing against the keto diet. The keto diet has its place. There are ways that we use it medically, ways that patients can use it to help. But I tend to try to pull people away from keto diets because, when you are looking at a carbohydrate, and I'm telling you, eliminate carbohydrates out of your diet, most patients will look at a keto diet in order to do that and eliminate all carbohydrates or a heavy amount of them. And that's really, again, not necessary either. So you win, you lose when it comes to carbohydrates, right? So what do? So carbohydrates are something that fuel our brain and allow us to have the energy, like for me to get up and get out of this chair and think, or to talk to you and create this video. It's, carbohydrates create that energy to do that. But the basis of our metabolism and burning fat and losing weight is in our muscle tissue. So when you have a higher carbohydrate diet or you eliminate carbs altogether and then you go on the keto diet and you eat, the definition of the keto diet is a more high fat content, so bacon, eggs, cheese, and a lower protein amount, but more protein definitely than carbohydrate, and to eliminate carbohydrates down to a very low level. In my mind, what that does is it lowers your calorie intake too far because you tend to try to eat more protein, you get fat, you get more full, you don't eat as much. When you eliminate the carbs, then you also eliminate the calorie intake there with the snacking and all. So you lower your carbohydrates, you lower your protein, you lower your calorie intake, you start to burn your muscle. Your muscle will be the first thing to go as your body wants to build muscle. It wants to turn and eat itself in order to fuel itself and get the protein amount, to get those amino acids that you need to build your muscle. And in order to get your fat content to burn, you need to build your muscle, not eat your muscle. So I tend to try to pull people away from a keto diet. And I have turned now to try to ask people to increase their protein content. And you can equal it in fat, but it has to be good fats. It can't be, burgers and things like that, but avocados, nuts, olive oil, nuts and seeds and olive oil, even eggs and things like that are okay. But what you want to do is increase your protein amount, and then carbohydrates are okay. It's to fuel your day. Early in the day, carbohydrates are okay. Later in the day, I tend to ask people to subside from them and lower them down. So I have a rule of a 40-40-20. So 40% protein, 40% fat, and 20% carbohydrate. I ask people to lower their carbohydrate levels at the end of the day when you're starting to settle in, sit down from your day, you're not as physically active, not as awake and alert. Lower your carbohydrate levels, stay in the protein fat category. And then I ask people to do some intermittent fasting type. That's going to be a whole other show. But intermittent fasting, where you can stop around 7 p.m. and then go most of the way. You can have your fluids if you need, but go most of the way through the next morning. And that allows your body to settle into a metabolic mode and a catabolic mode at the same time. You can build your muscle, but you can burn your fat. And that helps you to burn that belly fat that sits up front. So for a lot of patients will have shift work. And shift work can be, in my mind, anything that's outside the 9 to 5 range. So even if you go to work at 5 or 6 o'clock in the morning and work during the day, you are still pulling your cortisol off of its routine. And what your body is trying to accomplish, you can't change. It will always be high in the morning, low at night. So you have to go in that rhythm. When you work, you just can't help it. You got to go outside that rhythm. But that sometimes will help to, force that cortisol, to force the, fat back into that front belly and keep it there. So that, when I see patients who come and tell me that they are exhausted, their energy is way down, and I see that their belly is growing and changing, then I do their labs, and I don't always focus cortisol levels so much lab-wise, but if I see that their blood sugar is not in the diabetes range, but just a little bit elevated, I see their insulin levels a little bit elevated, and seeing their body habitus like that, I know that that is what's going on underneath. And patients will sit in front of me and say, I just can't lose weight, and I've done everything I can. I think when it comes to dietary issues, and exercise is going to be another show too, because that is extremely important, if not almost more important. But diet is really where we need to focus more in the United States. We need to focus on it so that patients learn that there is a way to eat. You do, in a way, have to divorce your taste buds away from the sweet, salty, crunchy areas and get into more flavorful foods that will actually allow you to, build up your muscle mass. Patients who also will lower their calories too far and, go on these completely fasting. Intermittent fasting is a complicated subject, and we'll spend some time on that. But patients sometimes will say, I just eat one meal a day, and they do this every day. And again, they'll get a huge calorie load during that one time and then, fast the rest of the day. And that, again, is not enough calories for you to keep your muscle mass up. You will burn your muscle off. Again, that front belly comes out. So there's a lot of issues surrounding it. We'll open that subject up and spend more time on it as we go. And just to pull back one more time into patients who are doing shift work, I really do have to work with them very, very hard in the supplement range. So here in a few minutes, I'm going to spend some time on the supplements that would help you to fix your cortisol. So since I spent the last show on working with sleep, the show before working on a little bit of energy problems cortisol-wise, this time working on weight, you can see the whole theme is to fix your cortisol levels. Like contemporary medicine, I think, just doesn't spend enough time on that. I really work on this with patients. So I do want to take just a minute before we head into our break. I want to take a minute to talk about my sponsor, who is Dolce Beauty and Laser. So Lisa Trinquire is over there with Bianca, her daughter. And it's a small, beautiful little home style, very beautiful place to go for Botox and fillers, which is very, very popular, but there's a lot more to that. You know, if you're doing the anti-aging and you're trying to make your skin look better, there are facials, there are many ways of improving your anti-aging, and not just doing Botox and fillers, which are incredibly expensive. There are a lot of less expensive ways to do it. The other thing too, since we're on the subject of weight loss, is to use some of the machines, the cool sculpting, some of the ways that you actually burn fat and reduce your girth. So if you're working on your diet and exercise, but you also go to something that will allow you to burn the fat as well, then you hit it from both sides, you're going to do very well in the fat loss department. One other thing I think is important too that a lot of patients don't realize, they say that they're just going to lose all this weight, then they'll do the aesthetics to try to improve their look. Now tell patients, do it while you are losing weight. Don't wait until the end, because that is the skin. I think most of the time as we lose weight and we get a little older, our skin is a little looser. And that is something that we can help you with too over at Dolce. I think Lisa's got a great place over there, and 210-686-0505 is their number. It's 6865 Camp Bullis Road. And she has the world's greatest injector over there, Bianca. So please visit Dolce. And we are going to talk supplements on the other side. I'll see you in just a few minutes. Welcome back. Thank you very much for joining me today. We have been talking about weight loss and cortisol. I've spent a lot of time on cortisol. Cortisol is so important to so many factors, sleep and energy, and today the subject is belly fat. So in the previous section, I was talking about how diet affects us and how inflammation affects us and all the factors affecting your cortisol levels. And so now I want to focus a little bit on the supplement, the vitamin and supplement area, the herbals that will help you do that. Because again, contemporary medicine has not really gotten it. The pharmaceutical industry doesn't really understand how large of a problem cortisol and inflammation is to people's, ability to lose weight and ability to keep themselves healthy, lower their blood sugars, prevent diabetes even, things like that. So the supplement industry is where the largest amount of focus is for reducing cortisol and trying to help. So again, sleep is one of those important things. So I'll focus again on a little bit on sleep. It's kind of a which came first, the chicken or the egg situation, because when your cortisol is off, you don't sleep well and you don't get in the deep stages of sleep, which is where you fix your cortisol. So again, it's a vicious cycle. So I try to work with patients on fixing their cortisol first and then fixing their sleep, and just try to work on both at the same time. Cortisol comes first, I think, though, because it has to lower enough in the evening for you to initiate a good sleep and then stay asleep. A lot of people wake up and can't go down easy, or they go down easy, but then they wake up after an hour and their brain just, goes and churns, and that's a wired but tired sensation. Or you wake up too early in the morning and just can't go back down. So the things that I want to work on, make some notes here so I put it on my website for you, is an adrenal supplement that is, there's different types of them. I do have one that I like in particular. There's a company, Orthomolecular, that makes a wide variety of supplements, and one of their supplements, I think that is contains the largest amount, the right dosages. And if I can spend a moment on the professional grade supplements, many patients, come to me and say they take this laundry list full of supplements and they buy them from some of the over-the-counter markets, some of the stores that are located in the shopping mall or a shopping center now, and or at the grocery store. These are not professional grade supplements in my mind. Somebody may want to challenge me on that, and that's fine, but these are not professional grade. So I recommend that you go to more of a pharmaceutical grade. Orthomolecular is one of those companies. So Adrenal is one of those names that is, and I'll have a link to my site if you're interested in this. I don't make money off of this, but I do have a link where you can go and purchase. And Adrenal is one of those types that contains 4 or more of the vitamin contents or the herbals, like ashwagandha. So these are names you've probably heard. Ashwagandha, rhodiola, licorice root. Those are a few of the ones that tend to help maintain appetite a bit, lower carb craving, fix your cortisol. And if you take a supplement for approximately, clinically, I see about 10 to 14 days. If you take these supplements, your cortisol will begin to spin around a bit. Then you'll look kind of backwards. It's not a sudden thing, but you'll look backwards and say, I think my sleep is improving. I see things improving. You're getting up a little bit easier. So those are the ones that I like to use. Some of the supplements like Adrenal uses a gland, an actual gland, usually from cow. Sometimes it can be from pig, but usually from cow, bovine based. And these glands are actually, processed, very clean, and processed and put into the vitamin to help balance your cortisol system. Again, this is one of those that I really like a lot. There are many ways to improve cortisol outside the supplement area. And, just by getting your vitamins and minerals, so making sure that your body is making the right enzymes and substances that help process cortisol better. So getting your B vitamins, getting magnesium, a very important one, and also getting plenty of vitamin D. D has to be taken with vitamin K2. So I'm going to make sure that you have a link to some of these vitamins. The Adrenal contains a large amount of vitamin Bs to it, which help sustain your B vitamins, and it's a good energy weight loss vitamin as well. But all of that is together in a compact. Take 2 to 4 tablets at night or during the day, regardless. You can split it up and improve your appetite a bit. These are things you just have to take and have to play with in order to see how it affects you. And so, when it comes to this 24 minutes, I'm telling you, it goes really, really quickly. And so I think I'll have to broaden this topic out a little bit and spend more time on it. For now, I need to wrap it up and tell you a bit about where I'm located and what I do. I am a family practitioner. I do all of the family practice things. I do wellness and I do disease management. So I'll see diabetes and thyroid. I will see, patients for their physicals. I see women, children, men, all age ranges, 0 all the way to 100 or more if you're lucky to get there. And I do things like, pap smears, or I'll work you up with an EKG, or do quick little visits for colds and coughs and UTIs and things like that. My heart and soul, though, is in integrative medicine. And that is where I work with things like weight loss and sleep. And I work with things like inflammation and try to help you live a much better life, because I know I've worked very, very hard. I've lost 162 pounds, and I did it with all these factors that I'm going to be sharing with you, both have done today and will be in the future. So I'm going to wrap it up today, and thank you very much, and join me next time, and we'll talk a bit more about cortisol and weight loss. Thank you.